The city of Melbourne, city of sport. It's the start of life after Michael Schumacher, and the Australian Grand Prix brings in a new season and a whole new shape to Formula One. It's all changed for Fernando Alonso, a double world champion with Renault. Can he make McLaren winners once again? He's on the front row. And it's all changed for Kimi Raikkonen, moving from McLaren and now taking an impressive pole position on his debut for Ferrari. No change for Jenson Button. He's got the cares of the world on his shoulders at Honda, and qualifying was a struggle. But Lewis Hamilton has the world in his grasp. It's his Formula One debut, and the 22-year-old is on the second row for McLaren.
I'm just really looking forward, really excited to it, to see the lights go out and get going.
And British motorsport can also applaud Anthony Davidson halfway up the grid on his Super Aguri debut. 4 British drivers in the lineup, and the rookies have had the best of it so far. It's the day that Formula One has been waiting for. Melbourne hosts the Australian Grand Prix and the start of a season of change and new opportunity. And for this star-studded Australian Grand Prix, we've got ideal conditions, clear skies, warm sunshine, and an enthusiastic and knowledgeable crowd who know precisely the importance of what lies in store over the next couple of hours. So welcome to Melbourne, and welcome to a new season of Formula One on ITV. And rarely could we have gone into a new season where so much has changed and so much is very hard to predict. But Mark Blundell, what we would have wanted is a front row of the quality of Raikkonen and Alonso, which is what lies in store for the race ahead.
Well, we've got everything that we had our fingers crossed for. We've got Alonso, as you say, in the McLaren. We've got Raikkonen in the Ferrari. Both of these teams want to go out and win their first race. And we've got Hamilton on the second row. What a wonderful job he did.
Yes, try to evaluate exactly what he achieved on his Grand Prix debut yesterday.
You know, it's difficult because I don't think for me, remember anybody coming in and making such a big impact. Even Michael Schumacher, when he went to Spa in the old Jordan there, he put the thing on the grid maybe 5th or so, didn't quite have the impact that Lewis Hamilton's having. Everybody I speak to in the paddock, first thing they come out with, Lewis Hamilton.
Well, we'll have much more on Lewis Hamilton's prospects in our race build-up. But first things first, let's just remind you of who drives for who and who drives where in this season of change. And Ted Kravitz has all the details.
Renault could struggle to retain their championships. Fernando Alonso is gone, and they're yet to get the best out of the new tyres. New boy Heikki Kovalainen joins Giancarlo Fisichella. In contrast, Ferrari are quick. Kimi Raikkonen takes Michael Schumacher's old seat. Felipe Massa's his teammate. These two start as championship favourites. McLaren have been re-energised by Alonso's arrival. They look the team most likely to challenge Ferrari. Partnering Alonso is Hertfordshire's Lewis Hamilton. The new Honda has handling problems, making it difficult to drive on the limit. It's going to be a tough year ahead for Jenson Button and Rubens Barrichello. BMW are this year's dark horses. The car's been surprisingly quick in winter testing, so if drivers Nick Heidfeld and Robert Kubica can produce the goods, this team could even win a race. Toyota appear to be heading for another unpredictable season. Jarno Trulli and Ralf Schumacher were slow over the winter, but then surprised everyone with top 10 positions in qualifying. Red Bull have a massively sophisticated new car, which has meant David Coulthard and Mark Webber will have to wait for it to realise its potential. A great name like Williams should not be down here in 8th place, so it's up to Nico Rosberg and Alex Wurz to propel them back up the grid. Toro Rosso are controversially running the same chassis as Red Bull, but with customer Ferrari engines. Scott Speed and Tonio Liuzzi are the drivers. Spiker also have Ferrari power, so the Dutch team just need to find speed from the car. Christian Albers is paired up with rookie Adrian Sutil. And last in the pit lane, but perhaps not for much longer, Super Aguri. They're running an adapted version of last year's Honda. Takuma Sato and Hemel Hempstead's Anthony Davidson could well spring a surprise.
And I suppose the message of the driver changes is that the new generation, a very talented new generation, is coming through. Not just Lewis Hamilton, this is his car awaiting Lewis in the McLaren garage behind us, but drivers like Kubica, like Rosberg, the old guard have got to watch out, haven't they?
They definitely have, and even two-time world champion Alonso has been kept on his toes with Lewis Hamilton. Anthony Davidson, test driver at Honda, now at Super Aguri, P11 on the grid. Fantastic situation for Super Aguri with Sato 10 in P11. You know, there is a new breed of driver coming through, a new generation. I think it's a very exciting time for F1.
I know it's a battle, but isn't it great to have this sound in the pit lane again and have the season underway?
Oh, definitely, Stephen. I honestly feel this is a classic season coming ahead of us, because I think you've got so many teams so close in terms of pace. You've got lots of changes with drivers, personnel in terms of designers at new teams, engines mated to different chassis, everything to look forward to.
Well, it's a season with 4 British drivers on the starting grid, and surely there's World Championship potential amongst them. The last British World Champion, of course, was Damon Hill, so what's his opinion of the British potential on that grid? Lewis Goodman had the chance to talk to him at Silverstone.
The British Racing Drivers Club at Silverstone hosted a press conference just before the 2007 season opener to support the 4 homegrown talents racing in F1 this year. BRDC President Damon Hill gave us his views on the Brits vying for Grand Prix honours this season.
Let's talk through them individually, starting with Jenson. He's had 7 years in Formula One now. Has he achieved what you would have expected?
He's achieved the Grand Prix win. I think he's established himself as a very good, solid, front-running driver. But what we haven't seen with him is what happens when he gets himself in a position to fight for a championship. And I know that he wants an opportunity to do that. But the question is, how is he going to do it where he is at the moment?
Let's move on then to a guy about to make his debut, Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Lewis?
Well, Lewis has had really a dream opportunity. It's not been given to him, he's earned it. And he's arrived at McLaren at a time when they're looking strong, it has to be said. For the strongest they've looked for a long time. Teammates to a two times world champion, and his first season. So I think it couldn't be a better opportunity for him.
What are you expecting from him this season?
Well, I think I heard recently that Ron has not discounted the possibility of him winning a Grand Prix later in the year. Well, if Ron has said that, then I think it's fair to say that there's a very good chance that he could be winning Grand Prix.
So from the new boy to the most experienced of the British drivers anyway, DC,
yeah.
How do you see the relationship shaping up between David and Mark Webber, his new teammate?
If I was managing the team, I wouldn't put 2 guys like that together, because I think they're quite affable guys, and I think they're good sporty blokes, and I think that's fine. But you want some little whippersnapper biting David's ankles, to make him jump, and I think that it could get too comfortable. That's my take on it.
Well, talking of whippersnappers, Anthony Davidson. I mean, it's difficult. I say whippersnapper. It's easy to forget. He actually made his Grand Prix debut back in 2002. How's he going to cope now he's back on the grid?
He's so delighted. I mean, look at him. He's so keen. I think there's a thing about Anthony Davidson. He seems like he really enjoys it being there, and he wants to be there, and he still hasn't shown what he can do yet, and he might get a chance with this team.
And out of these 4 guys, who do you think is going to be the top Brit, the star Brit of the season?
I think it has to be Lewis Hamilton for this year. I think he has the best opportunity, and of course it's his first season, and there's so much expectation, so we're all very excited to see how he'll do.
We are all very excited, but I'm sure Damon Hill would have sympathised with the qualifying problems of Jenson Button yesterday. His Honda is back on 14th on the grid, but he'd have been absolutely thrilled with the qualifying performances of Anthony Davidson and certainly Lewis Hamilton as well. James Allen now takes us through all the details from yesterday's qualifying.
Well, Lewis Hamilton certainly kept his teammate Fernando Alonso honest. Huge pressure on him throughout practice and qualifying. In the end, Hamilton 4th, having dropped a couple of tenths of a second in the middle sector of his lap. Alonso managed to pip him then into 2nd place. 3rd, splitting the 2 McLarens, the BMW of Nick Heidfeld. This car looks electric around here, and it looks to me as though Heidfeld is running a lighter fuel load, and Kubica, his teammate in 5th place, is carrying more fuel. He'll certainly be a threat for the Grand Prix. Stunning performance by the Super Aguris in last year's Honda car, which was on pole position here with Jenson Button. Takuma Sato 10th, Anthony Davidson 11th, and this year's Honda car is way down the field, 14th for Jenson Button. He's struggling to get the car into the final few corners. Toyota, well, they got both cars in the top 10, despite this bizarre trolley incident. Jarno Trulli dragging the rear jack down the pit lane and depositing it on the pit lane exit. And mixed fortunes at Ferrari. Felipe Massa, the pre-race favourite, suffering a gearbox problem. He qualified down in 15th place, giving far too much away to teammate Kimi Raikkonen, who looked effortless at the front throughout qualifying. He's on pole in his first Grand Prix for Ferrari. So we've got Ferrari's bookending the grid. Felipe Massa is right at the back, having had to change an engine. He was 15th in the original qualifying session. Alonso alongside Raikkonen. That's the first time he's been there in Australia. Heidfeld, BMW's best ever Formula 1 qualifying. Hamilton outstanding on his debut. Kubica, that's his best in Formula 1, and Fisichella is alongside him on row 3. Big smiles for Webber and Red Bull. Their new car in 7th. Trulli and Ralf Schumacher exceeded expectations for Toyota. What about this for a story? The two Super Aguri Hondas, Sato and Davidson, out-qualify the works cars. Rosberg also on row 6. Row 7, Kovalainen and Jenson Button very disappointed here in Melbourne. Wurz and Barrichello in the Honda make up row 8. Row 9, Scott Speed and David Coulthard, who had a terrible time in first qualifying. Row 10, Liuzzi in the Toro Rosso and Adrian Sutil, the German debutant in the Spiker. And at the back, Albers and Massa.
No, we did our own thing, and we never know how much fuel the others are running, so we do the best what we can.
I think after Q2 that I was P1, I really believe that there was the possibility to win the first row, so we made it at the end, so it's good for us.
After Friday, I was quite sure that we can make it into the top 10 and hoped for like 5th place or something like that. To be on P3 is optimal. I'm overwhelmed. It's fantastic. I just want to say thank you for the team. They did a fantastic job preparing the car. And yeah, what a dream to be on the 2nd row for my first Grand Prix. It couldn't be better.
For the 11th time, we're at Albert Park, Melbourne, and the Australian Grand Prix. 5.3 kilometres, 3.3 miles, around 86 seconds. We'll see you near the front of the grid with the latest tyres. Let's check out Lewis Hamilton's first ever Formula 1 qualifying. He has to be careful not to lock the front tyres on the way into turn 1. He's smooth and fluid. That's beautiful driving, no problems at all. It's a sweeping right-hand curve along this straight down towards turn 3. 185 miles an hour down to just 60. Kisses the apex nicely. Smooth on the throttle. You can take curb on the inside and ride heavily the curb on the right. Turn 5 should be full throttle. Now a little S-bend under the canopy of the trees, over a blind crest into turn 6. Hard on the throttle. Just running a little bit wide. Turn 8 sweeps around the wall. A heavy bump under braking into 9. You have to give it a little bit of extra space. Beautiful apex there. Onto the back straight, building up to 185 miles an hour. Taking the line of least resistance to be on the right-hand side. Ready for the unsighted turns 11 and 12. Back of the car just stepping out. That would ultimately cost him a front row grid slot. Even that tiny error. Turn 13 ahead, 185 down to just 80 miles an hour. Now a really tricky corner ahead. It's 14. You sweep in early. Lewis really does like the nose of the car pointing directly into the corner. Big braking zone then for 15. And again the back end just sliding around into the final corner. He's correcting it constantly. That might be a bit of a handful in the race, but it works supremely well in qualifying. It's P4 on the grid for Lewis Hamilton.
I was fairly relaxed. I think I probably surprised myself how relaxed I was. There is a lot of pressure on me from the outside world and from everyone in here, from the team. But at the end of the day, I put more pressure on myself to succeed. And I want to win in this business. I'm not here to finish second. And so, but there's a certain way you have to do it. And you can't go in all guns blazing wanting to qualify pole in your first qualifying session. You need to do it step by step. And I think 4th. We've got a good strategy. We are quite heavy, and so I'm looking forward to tomorrow.
Are you starting to feel at all the pressure of all that extra expectation?
Probably the biggest shock is just how much attention you get. When I leave the paddock or when I'm in the paddock, everyone's looking, and it's obviously just trying to just have tunnel vision and try not to make too much eye contact and get distracted.
What was the first exchange you had with Fernando Alonso after that session finished?
Immediately when we finished, we were on the weigh-in scales, and he was just behind me and he tapped me on the back and said congratulations, and same for him. He did a great job. I think we've both done the best job we probably could do for the team, You know, and I think we've got good strategy, so we're in good stead.
What is going to be the approach? What is going to be the mindset? We're all familiar with your GP2 style of competing and racing. Do you carry that sort of style into Formula One?
I think so. I mean, at the end of the day, that is my style, but it's a lot harder to overtake in Formula One. Let me assure you that. So, you know, all these people said, you know, there's no overtaking in Formula One. It's extremely tough. You know, you lose so much downforce, and the thing is, we're able to carry so much speed through corners. You just lose that aero balance, and it's just, you know, you're almost tiptoeing when you're behind someone, and it's so easy to come off and make a mistake.
You've dreamt about the day, you've dreamt about the opportunity. What do you expect the first few laps certainly to be like?
I hope it's similar to what I've experienced before in GP2. I'm sure that all the drivers are extremely professional, as they were in GP2, and so there should be quite a steady first lap. Hopefully we get a good start, and but it's all about having a clean first lap and then carrying that on and just keep on pushing. I'll be pushing 110% all the way.
Well, it's the best qualifying performance by a British rookie driver on his Formula One debut in well over 50 years, so that's one target achieved. What is the target for the race?
Target for the race is obviously to score as many points as possible, but I mean, I'm trying to take things step by step, so scoring as many points as possible. Whether that means a podium or not, we don't know. But if I'm out of the top three, still, that's, you know, if I get points, that'd be great. But podium, then a win. You know, it's got to move on from that way.
It's going great so far. Wish you the best.
Thank you very much.
Let's remind you just one more time, he's just 22 years old. He's so relaxed, he's so mature. But now in the final countdown to his Grand Prix racing debut, he'll be experiencing a whole new kind of Formula One pressure.
Yeah, he will, but, you know, let's not forget, Steve, this guy has been around McLaren for 10 years. This has been a joint initiative between McLaren as an F1 organisation and Mercedes-Benz to take him as a child, basically, and groom him all the way to this today, which is going to be something very special for him, for all of the people here, and for his family. I still cannot get over the fact that he is such a young guy, and the amount of pressure that's on his shoulders, he's coping with it so well.
Hamilton coming in, and especially Fernando Alonso coming into this team. We have to remind ourselves as well that this team hasn't won for over a year now, but there's a new and sort of relaxed confidence about McLaren these days.
You know, over the winter, they kind of came out with a different image. They wanted to say, you're not a cold team, we've got a lot of warmth inside, and we can, express ourselves. And I think this driver lineup, Alonso and Hamilton, with the youth and double world champion, is a great one for them to get going.
It's a contrast, we have to say, with Honda. Ironically, Jenson Button, who was the focus of so much British interest last year, is in the garage right next door to Lewis Hamilton, and Honda with big problems. And it seems extraordinary to look back a year, and this was the team. Jenson Button was the man on pole position for this Australian Grand Prix. What do you feel has gone wrong?
Well, it's difficult to understand. You talk to the people at the team, they've got various sort of situations that they feel can be the downside of what the car is, because they say it's aero, they say, mechanical problems. All I know at watching what's going on with Jenson, he's a smooth driver, probably one of the smoothest drivers down the pit lane. He very rarely puts much input into the steering wheel. You watch an in-car camera lap, he's working overtime, he's really earning his money. It's an ill-handling car. Honda have got to get on top of it, and I think Honda will do. Don't underestimate the power of Honda. I mean, we're up. Whatever they do in motorsport, they win, and it can't be too long before they get on top of the problems.
Sure, it's not the new paint job that's slowing them down. That's attracted a fair bit of attention as well. But Jenson, back in 14th on the grid, he had a quick word with Louise as he arrived at the circuit this morning.
Yeah, how are you going to do today, Chief?
Nice little touch, that autograph stand on the way in, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty manic, isn't it, this morning? Full of Japanese, actually.
Well, they're all getting very excited now because Takim was just arriving in his taxi.
Have you seen it? I saw him on the way here. It didn't look like it was going to get here.
Are you a fan of this race?
Yeah, definitely. For me, it's the best way to start a season. It's a beautiful setting. The Australian people put on a fantastic show. So yeah, it's the best way to start the year.
Bit of a contrast walking in this year, though, to walking in here 12 months ago in terms of your position on the grid, isn't it?
Yeah, just a little bit. 14 places back, so it's very disappointing. But I've just got to see what we can do from there. And things change, You're holding my hand, Louise.
I'm just getting you to walk on. But frustrating to be starting the season this way.
Yeah, of course it is. I think that's the same for a lot of drivers when they come into a new year, but we expected to be further up than what we are. We expect to be up there challenging for wins, up there with Räikkönen and Alonso, but it's not the case, and we've just got to work at what we've got in the moment. But it's very frustrating, and it's pretty tough turning up here knowing that you're not going to get in the top 10 really in qualifying.
But you said fundamentally it is a quick car. How long is it going to take you to unleash that speed?
Well, that's the thing, you know, it could be 1 week, it could be 2 months, 3 months, so you never really know, and it's what I think is an aerodynamic issue, something that we need to sort out aerodynamically. But we're going to keep working, and I think today's information from the race is going to be very useful for us. So, yeah, that's the reason why we're here more than the result.
Nice to see your former teammate doing well, though, Anthony Davidson.
Yeah, it is. You know, he's done a good job, and I'm sure he's very happy to be here. You know, he seems so excited. All winter he's been so excited about coming here to Melbourne. So it's good to see him up there, and hopefully he'll have a good race, which he obviously hasn't done for quite a while now.
What do you think about Lewis's performance so far?
Yeah, he did well in qualifying. I mean, it was obvious that he was going to. The car seems to be very quick, as Alonso showed in qualifying, and you know, he should be up there really.
Hope it's a good one for you.
Thank you.
Honda is one of the teams with an unchanged driver lineup for this season. Jenson Button once again alongside Rubens Barrichello. That's unchanged, but let's hope the form changes fairly swiftly over the first few races of the season. Right, we told you about all the changes in driver lineups. There are also changes to the regulations and race format as well, which all helps to add to the unpredictable nature of this season. And once again, Ted Kravitz has details.
The constant drive to improve safety has meant 15% tougher crash tests. There's also a new regulator that stops teams running illegal flexible rear wings. The warning flags have been supplemented by lights on the steering wheel. If the session stopped, a red light; if there's an accident, a yellow light; or if you're about to be lapped, a blue light. Fridays now have 3 hours of free testing when you can use a fresh engine. The motors themselves are rev limited and designs frozen till 2010. But the biggest change is to the tyres. Everyone's on the same Bridgestones, but they have to run both a hard and a soft compound during the race. The soft tyre will have special markings, so we can tell which is which.
There is quite a split between the two tyres, and I think that generally everyone will do the minimum they can on the hard tyre. And typically Grand Prix are decided after the last stop, and there's not a great deal of overtaking happens in that last section of the race. So I would imagine you'll get most people doing a very short last stint.
There are also significant changes to the safety car procedure. As soon as the safety car is deployed, you're not allowed to pit for fuel. You are allowed to come in for tyres, which is a safety measure in case you've run over some debris and picked up a puncture. If you do pit for fuel at this point, it's a 10-second stop-go penalty. When everyone has formed up behind the safety car, race control will show a message saying pit lane open. If we're anywhere near a pit stop window, chaos will then ensue as everyone comes in for fuel. The pit lane will resemble a busy petrol station as teammates have to queue up. Once everyone rejoins, there'll be another message telling lapped cars that they can now overtake the safety car. They will then sprint round and rejoin at the back of the pack. This is to get slower cars, like these two Midlands, out of the way of the chasing drivers behind them.
You cannot just change the strategy, which in a way I'm sad, because as a spectator it was always nice that someone just pulled a rabbit out of the head and made a magic move. It was also good for the teams because they had to be very sharp and ultra quick on the reaction to call it the driver in or not, and that's all gone. So it just makes less of a surprise factor, I guess.
It does mean you can be pretty unlucky and you can take quite a big hit in terms of a penalty if you had to refuel. Maybe there are other ways of doing it, but it's a simple solution. Some days you'll win from it, some days you'll lose.
And here at the McLaren garage, the helmet goes on for Lewis Hamilton. Last words of advice before he heads out onto the grid. What would your advice to Lewis be, Mark?
I think at the end of the day, Steve, he's done everything that everyone expected so far. Just go out there and enjoy yourself. Take the pressure off your shoulders, because he certainly has a great deal of that at the moment. But it's history being made at this point. This is fantastic. And let's not forget that at the end of the day also, this is the first time since 1950 that a British driver has qualified so far up the grid. Fourth position on his debut Grand Prix. Tremendous achievement.
We know what he's like, what his driving style is like from all that spectacular stuff that he did in GP2. He was suggesting in the interview earlier that the same approach will do here, but what are your thoughts?
Oh, I think he'll be very steady and very composed in the way that he approaches a race, because it is going to be new to him. It is a different environment starting the Grand Prix, definitely. And for me, if he gets on the podium, it will be an outstanding result. And it's possible, believe me, Steve.
Well, everyone shares the historic nature of the moment, and Lewis Hamilton's father, Anthony Hamilton, is just recording the moment for posterity on his camera as well, and we wish Lewis Hamilton all the very best. His debut is almost arrived. The dream come true for Lewis Hamilton. Meantime, at the other end of the grid, in both terms of form and in terms of age and experience, we've got Mark Webber, who's the teammate at Red Bull of David Coulthard. Let's get Mark's thoughts at this moment.
Well, Mark, the sun's out. Australia's presenting its finest, and great qualifying from you as well.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it went pretty well. Sudden death qualifying is always nerve-wracking for everyone involved, and you just got to go and obviously do your best. And the car felt reasonable, but you just never know where you're going to end up. You know, I was expecting to come around thinking, oh, maybe 14th, 13th, whatever. So I was 7th in that session. Okay, let's go again. And the guy said, what do you need? I said, just another set of tyres. Let's just keep going. And yeah,
that's great. So what do you think is going to be the deciding factor today? Reliability?
Yeah. You see that bloody checkered flag. That would be useful today. I think it's going to be a bit of attrition, bit of safety car action, bit of, you know. Well, I hope it's a boring race safety car wise, which I think it'll be give an exciting race for everyone. I just said to Kimmy, he needs a magazine to read.
It's going to be too easy for him. Okay, have a good race.
Well, we brought you details a short time ago of the changes in rules and the changes in format, especially as it applies to the new single tyre supplier, and that's the first subject of the season for Mark Blundell. In question, Mark.
For the first time in 10 years, we have a single tyre manufacturer in the sport. Carl Ackley from Huntingdon asked, what's the difference between a Michelin tyre and a Bridgestone tyre that the guys are using this year? Well, I've got just the man to answer that question, David Coulthard. Tyres are just tyres, aren't they?
Well, you think so, yeah, they just look black and round, but the reality is the way they're constructed, the compound that's laid onto them, changes significantly the way the driver feels the car and is able to deliver the lap time.
But what is the big difference in terms of handling now you're on the Bridgestone tyre?
Well, obviously this Bridgestone is sort of from a couple of years ago, so it's not the latest and greatest tyre that Bridgestone finished last season on because of the FIA's desire to control the lap times. So I can't give you an absolute comparison, but one of the things I really notice in the difference is that the Bridgestone doesn't have the same braking potential that the Michelin had. So I would expect you'll see more cars locking up into the corners, so that puff of smoke coming off the inside wheel. The effect of that is it might make overtaking a bit more difficult. If someone has a go, you might see them sailing straight on into the boonies with the tyre locked up.
The big factor about this controlled tyre now, has it closed the gap on the grid? Is everybody now on an equal platform?
We're all in the same boat, so we're going to have the same inter available to us and the same wet. And I think in many ways what will happen is you'll have the sort of class of the field will show themselves at every Grand Prix because there's nothing there to sort of throw in a variable.
Now we've got this controlled tyre, is it easy for the rookies to come in and learn Formula One, or does it make it more difficult?
Well, in theory it should make it easier for them. Now we have 4 tyres which will be used the whole season. Everyone's had the opportunity to use them in winter testing, and that's what we'll finish the year on. So it's taking out another element of learning.
British drivers on the grid for this new Formula One season, but the one who's getting all the attention, Lewis Hamilton, has just blasted out of the McLaren garage. Important moment, getting rid of all that adrenaline that must have built up over the last 45 minutes or so.
He's certainly built up the adrenaline to this point, but when he goes around and does the warm-up lap, he'll calm himself down and he'll use all that positive energy there to best effect when he gets to the start. But it's still a long way to go in the process of getting the start underway. A lot more information for Lewis to absorb, and there's a lot more that he has to deal with than what he's used to in a GP2 car. Things have moved up a step now, but he'll handle it, no problem at all.
All the cars now heading out onto the grid. Will be out there with Martin Brundle as well very shortly. But how important is it for the likes of Lewis and also Anthony Davidson, who's coming back into the sport, to get into this kind of start routine?
And they just need to make sure that they're composed and that everything is in their mind. Don't forget also, Steve, we have new regulations. The drivers would have needed to learn those regulations in terms of what's going on with pit stops, pit lane entry closed off, lots of things in their mind. And when that situation occurs, they need to be crystal on it. They need to make sure they understand it. But I think also, you know, the pressure is still going to be there, and I just hope for everyone's sake that the guys bring all the cars home, score the points with reliability, because that's going to build upon their championship process. Scoring points, durability, key process for all of them.
Kimi Räikkönen terrific on his debut for Ferrari yesterday, but there'll be some uncertainty in the Ferrari camp given the gearbox problems.
I think Kimi did the job that everyone felt was necessary. I'm a little bit upset that Massa didn't get a crack at him, because I'd have liked to have seen the pace of Massa in the Ferrari against Kimi. But let's also talk about McLaren also, because everyone feels they're heavier on fuel load, and we really could have a good fight in the hand between Ferrari and McLaren.
And what exactly does Fernando Alonso bring to McLaren, apart from 2 World Championship titles?
Well, he brings the obvious, but he does bring a coolness. He brings an awareness of what's needed to go and win championships. McLaren have not had a driver since Mika Häkkinen who's done a World Championship for them. Now they bring in experience and depth, and I think he will bring something a little bit special. He's got you know, an old head and young shoulders of Alonso, but bearing in mind, I also feel he was under some pressure yesterday in qualifying from his teammates, so just wait and see on the 2 hours of this race.
Okay, and one more thought for Lewis Hamilton coming off road 2. It's a tough circuit, this, to make a racing debut in Formula 1, isn't it?
It is indeed, but as I said yesterday, for me, Lewis Hamilton's probably the fittest guy down the pit lane. He's fit physically, fit in mind as well. He'll get it done.
Okay, as we said earlier, the garage next door to Lewis Hamilton, occupied by Jenson Button and by Honda. Nick Fry of Honda is with us. We've tried as best we can, Nick, so far to reflect the problems that you're having ahead of this season. But how would you sum them up? What is the situation at the moment?
We've got basically a good car, but the performance clearly is not there this weekend. Mainly aerodynamic issues. We have a big aero imbalance at the moment, which we're working on. I wouldn't expect us to be in this position for too long, so don't write us off.
Jenson was a little bit uncertain about what the timetable might be for sorting it all out. Are we talking 3 races, 4 races, or what?
Yeah, I think it's very difficult to be exact about this, but with Honda we have huge resources. It's going to be a good season, I'm sure, Steve.
Absolutely. And how are things going to shape up at the front? And what are your thoughts for your garage neighbour here, Lewis Hamilton?
Well, if we can't win, then we'd love to see Lewis win.
Okay, Nick, we wish you all the best. You're going to get to work, and hopefully an improvement will be not far away as the season progresses. That's Nick Fry of Honda, and all the background information on Formula 1, well, you can get that via the ITV F1 website. You'll be able to get it out on the grid via Martin Brundle very shortly as well. But it also features background information on the sport and, of course, the calendar this year, which is a 17-race calendar. We go from here in Australia to Malaysia in 3 weeks' time. And then it's Bahrain and then into the European season. Of course, the main absentee there is the San Marino Grand Prix at Imola, but the British Grand Prix is back in its familiar position in July, the halfway point of the season, and it's a welcome back to that Belgian Grand Prix at Spa as well. A couple of our competition winners from last season who have made it to the very first Grand Prix of this season. Rob and Jude Walker from Leighton Buzzard. They won our last competition based around the Brazilian Grand Prix. They've been well looked after at McLaren, and we'll have more ITV F1 competitions during the course of this season. Okay, we'll be out on the grid, enjoying the atmosphere ahead of this Australian Grand Prix, enjoying the thoughts of Martin Brundle in just a few minutes' time. So the countdown to the first race of this new season is almost complete. The drivers out on the grid, the cars assembled. A season without Michael Schumacher, of course, but it is a season with a Schumacher. And that, of course, is Ralf Schumacher with Toyota, who are struggling to make progress at the moment. But let's hear from Ralf himself, who's with Ted.
Yes, and a very smiley, happy Ralf Schumacher. Is that because you didn't expect to be this high up the grid, Ralf?
No, not at all. I mean, you know, we have beautiful weather, decent grid position, so why not to be in a good mood? And anyway, we expected to be where we are, to be honest. I think, you know, a lot of people have talked us down to an extent that was not fair. I mean, we had a pretty tough test session, or we had a few of them, but at the same time that was the same with anybody else, and we knew that when we put the whole package together that it would be decent at least.
Okay, well, have a good race. Do you miss not having Michael around?
Yeah, it's different, completely different. It's a shame, but you know, he deserves his retirement, so I'm sure he's going to watch us.
Okay, I'm sure he'll watch you. Thanks, Ralf.
Should we walk over to there?
Mark, how do you feel the sport itself reacts to not having Michael around? Is there a different kind of atmosphere, even for the guys like Rubens Barrichello, who have raced alongside him for many years? I mean, they'll miss him.
Oh, of course they'll miss him, Steve, but you know, I'm quite surprised because his name hasn't been mentioned that much over the course of the weekend, but in some ways it doesn't surprise me because that's very much Formula One. You're here today, gone tomorrow, and we're looking for a new champion and looking for new race winners.
Bernie Ecclestone surveying the new look of the Formula One grid, but it's a familiar front row. We've got Raikkonen and Alonso, of course, in the absence of Michael Schumacher. Are they the two biggest talents in Formula One?
Well, they're the two biggest names, I think, Steve, currently. Definitely Raikkonen, we all feel he's probably the quickest driver on the race circuit. Alonso, two-time world champion, we've seen his credentials. But you've got some guys there in the mix with Heifeld in the BMW. BMW are very happy with their position. Hamilton, the new boy on the block, Kubica, Fisichella, who needs to deliver for Renault. Very important race for these guys.
Yes, you mentioned BMW. They'll be looking to really achieve the consistency that was missing from their undoubted speed last year and marry the two together, and they'll be threatening during the course of the season. Jenson Button there, struggling for Honda. We've heard all about their problems, but the Honda B team, as it were, Super Aguri, well, Jenson, there are consolations in Formula One. Kylie Minogue and Danny Minogue with Jenson Button, and that's the picture the girls will treasure.
He should be so lucky, hey?
I was going to avoid that line. Louise is pretty lucky at the moment. She's got Anthony Davidson of Super Aguri.
This man has had a grin on his face all weekend. You're like a kid on Christmas morning, aren't you? Just so excited to be here.
I'm really looking forward to it, yeah. We just had a few problems exiting the garage just now with the throttle. So hopefully they can cure that and we'll get a good race.
You've been here on the grid for the start before. It's the finish that's going to be the key thing. You've not finished a race, but you've got a good chance of getting that monkey off your back today because you've had good reliability.
Yeah, it's been with us all the way through testing, as I said before. So yeah, hopefully that will stay with us today. And we're just looking for a nice clean start. You know that turn one is notorious around here, so just got to get through that unscathed. And I know that I'm in the most critical point on the grid for this situation, so I know it can happen, but I'm not going to just you know, be too careful. I want to push.
Points a possibility today?
It is a possibility. I mean, you know, we got the car to do it, so I'm going to go for it.
Good luck.
Thanks.
He's a talented and very determined young chap, Anthony Davidson, and he will make progress with Super Aguri.
He will do, and it's very impressive with Super Aguri as a team. They haven't turned a wheel with this car that they've brought to the track, and Anthony's got the option of fuel loads as well. Being here now, it really gives him some flexibility.
Well, it's always a big show here in Australia, both on the track and in the air as well, and even the superstars on the grid are looking skywards at the moment. Jarno Trulli there for Toyota, who will be pretty happy to have got both their cars in the box. His teammate Ralf Schumacher a moment ago.
I think Toyota are reasonably happy to be in the top 10, but I feel that Toyota also need to be doing a lot more, Steve. They have huge resource behind them. They've been in the sport for some 7 years now, and we still haven't really seen them achieve a great deal. The big bosses are here, I know that, and I'm sure they want to impress.
Big season as well for the likes of Williams, who were somewhat beleaguered. The whole argument going on about B teams and customer-supported teams and so on. Williams feeling a bit vulnerable.
They feel a bit vulnerable because they've had such a poor season last year, but they've got Toyota engines now, and that's something that the Toyota main team are going to be concerned about, to see whether they get outpaced by Williams. But as we stand, I still feel that Williams have got a great pedigree in engineering. I feel they've got you know, a good couple of guys there with Wirtz, big experience of his McLaren testing days, and young Nico Rosberg is still going to show us the huge talent that he has.
Takuma Sato there, who put his Super Aguri into the top 10. That was a big breakthrough for the team, wasn't it?
Well, you know, that's like winning a Grand Prix for those guys. They've only been around one season, turned up late with their car, got in the top 10 with Sato, a guy who's hugely enthusiastic. And they're a very small organisation, and I think they've shown up a lot of the big boys down this pit lane.
Jenson Button was very polite about what Super Aguri have done, but it must hurt when you see last year's car out-qualifying it.
It's a difficult situation for all of the people at Honda to understand why they're a lot slower than the last year's car, but you know, it's something they will get to understand. They've got some good people on board at Honda. They'll get to grips of it very soon, and let's not underestimate Jenson and Rubens. They're great drivers.
Christian Albers with work still going on the spiker at the back of the grid, but at the front of the grid, well, we'll hear opinions from what might happen between Kimi Raikkonen and Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton coming off row 2. So much to look forward to in this Australian Grand Prix as Nico Rosberg makes the final preparations. OK, our final contribution comes from Martin Brundle, who's out there for his grid walk.
Welcome to the grid. Happy Mother's Day. It's appropriate to you, especially my mum, of course. I don't think I've ever seen this amount of people on the grid here in Melbourne. It looks more like Monte Carlo. Let's just take, Bernie's got his hand forward. It's Poland there. And let's just grab a word with Sir Sterling Moss and Bernie Ecclestone. Bernie, first race of the year. It's appropriate. You're the first man we talked to on our grid walk this year. How are you feeling? I've never seen so many people on this grid.
I know. I don't know how they get here, to be honest with you. We have to get rid of them, won't we?
Well, we need a few of them. So
No, we get rid of the mechanics.
Well, who's that lady you had your arm round there? It's
Miss Poland.
Excellent. So tell us about this season. You're talking about a night race as well coming up. Is that for real?
Yeah, that's going to happen. I want to do that in all Asia. Then there's no reason why we shouldn't have more races here. Because for you in England, we're going to get the same, good. Instead of the middle of the night, it'll be.
So what, I'm going to be sort of going around with a torch, am I, looking for you?
Oh, no, on their hat they'll have the miners' helmets, the drivers.
Yeah, all right, good stuff. Well, look, who's your tip for today?
This guy, I think.
Yeah, you think the Ferraris are going to run and hide, or?
I think so.
All right, Lewis Hamilton's been amazing, yeah?
I hope Lewis really does get the job done. If he finishes in the first 6, it'd be magical anyway.
All right, we're going to go and try and find somebody down. Thank you, Bernie. So, Kimi Raikkonen then on pole position, his first ever Grand Prix for Ferrari. I don't think he's on the grid. He certainly wasn't when I started talking a wee while ago. Let's head down. Nick Heidfeld had a great qualifying second row of the grid. Looking for a man with a bit of a 70s beard on here. Nick, quick word for British TV. How's it going? You must be really happy.
Yeah, we are. We saw in winter testing that we were quick, but I didn't expect to be P3 here. Also, know with Robert on P5 is actually the best ever position we had for our team.
Watching you guys out on the track, you're the most confident guys out there to jump on the throttle and just drive the car. Your car looks great.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot easier to drive than last year. Actually, in the beginning it wasn't. I didn't like the balance, but we've improved quite a bit since our rollout in Valencia. There's still something to gain as the Ferraris are quite a bit quicker.
All right, well, follow that one and have a good day. Right, Lewis Hamilton is fourth on the grid. Now, we've been specifically asked not to talk to him because they want him to just focus on the race. Let's see if we can get a word with his dad, who's over there, because I think I should respect that request. Not that I'm very happy about it, because we'd dearly like to hear what Lewis has got to say. Anthony, what a day for you. Yeah, I mean, it's over a dozen years ago you'd have been standing in a kart paddock at 6 a.m. on a rainy English morning, and here you are on the grid in Melbourne.
Absolutely fantastic. It's like a culmination of 13 years worth of hard work, and I'm struggling to take it all in, but yeah, it's a fantastic moment.
Now, how is Lewis taking? He just went. Ron has given him the last minute advice and what have you. And how do you think? What has he said to you this morning?
Well, he's basically said that he's happy with the qualifying yesterday, and that anything from this point onwards is a bonus. And so the whole team are behind us, and Lewis personally feels that if all things go well, he'll have a good race.
Now, does he get nervous? I mean, he doesn't. He's obviously getting the big chat there from the Ron, but does he get nervous?
I've never been able to figure it out. I actually don't think he gets nervous. I think he gets excited just to get in there and race. but it'll all go well.
So you'll be happy with a few points today, yeah? You'll both go home, you'll jump on the aeroplane happy?
If he brings home the car, I'll be even more than happy.
Okay, well done. We're going to respect the fact that we've been asked not to talk to him today, so...
Just like to say, hello to my family back home, Nicholas, my wife Linda, and the whole family watching the TV today. Much appreciate your help and support.
You've done that. Well done. Right, okay. I think we'll wander down the grid and see if we can find a few more Kubicas. That was Kylie Minogue. Why don't we try and have a word with Kylie Minogue if we can just doorstep her. Kylie, Martin, ITV, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good stuff.
Welcome to my hometown.
Thank you. It's great. We're really enjoying it, especially now it's stopped raining. Hi, Danny. Do you want to come in as well? So you guys, you're petrolhead sisters, aren't you?
We are now. She's got her learner's plates, but you're going to help teach her all about it. We want to say hello to everyone back in England. Hi. Hello.
Okay, so what's happening in your career? You've got a new album coming out soon, I think, Kylie?
Yeah, I'm going to work on that this year.
Yeah, good, and healthy and everything, happy, and you guys look really happy.
Thanks very much, yeah.
Danny, what's happening with you?
TV work. I can't tell you what it is yet, but yeah, loads of TV.
All right, so you guys, you're Jenson Button fans, really, aren't you? You're not even closet Button fans. You're just the real thing.
We're here for Webb, but we did give him a double Minogue kiss before Jenson got in the car. Yeah, which I think he liked. I didn't leave the lipstick trace. I have nothing to do with that.
Okay, good stuff. Lovely to talk to you, and let's have a great. Just want to have a Slavitsa. It's Mother's Day today. How are you?
Oh, I'm missing my girls. I can't wait to be home. But it's a beautiful atmosphere. It's a great day here.
Okay, well, good luck. And who do you think is going to win?
Ferrari.
Okay, well, they're getting the big Ecclestone vote. I don't know how long we got left. Now the drivers are starting to get into the cars. It's getting much earlier now that they don't do reconnaissance lap. They just...
You know, Asnar's over there.
Sorry?
You know, the Prime Minister.
Right. We'll talk to the Prime Minister. We're going to talk to the Prime Minister. Where? Which one? Okay. Who do I need to talk to? No, we've talked to. So who's the Prime Minister? Bernie, you've sent me over here. Now you've left me high and dry. Who am I talking to?
Ex-Prime, he used to be the Prime Minister.
Right. All right. How are you, sir? How are you? Martin Brundle, ITV. Good to meet you. I think it's a bit of an abrupt introduction, but how are you doing?
Very happy to be here, and congratulations, Bernie Ecclestone. This organization is fantastic.
Okay, well, it's good stuff. Have a great day. Right, well, that was very good, wasn't it? Right, okay. Webber's getting in the car. No, just a quick word with Mark Webber. And literally Sam Button, we're back to Steve. Quick word, Mark.
Interesting first Grand Prix coming up, I think. We can get to the end. I mean, obviously the car's a little bit underdone reliability-wise. Hope we can get to the end, and if we get to the checkered flag, anything's possible today.
All right, good luck. Back to you, Steve.
Well done, Martin. Final proof that politics and sport don't mix. Whatever happens for Martin Brundle during the rest of the afternoon is going to be an anti-climax. But what an atmosphere there on the grid. The Minogues, there's Shane Warne is around here somewhere. The whole of Australia has turned up for this one.
No, it's fantastic, and I think Martin's a happy bunny having the Minogue sisters. He didn't get the double kiss though, did he?
It is amazing. It always amazes you how relaxed these guys are ahead of the pressures of a Formula One Grand Prix. We've now moved out to a position in the paddock, and just about 30 seconds ago Fernando Alonso was standing alongside us making a couple of phone calls on his mobile phone, and with about 5 minutes to go to the start.
You know, it is incredible, and it's one of the only sports I know of in the world that actually people get access to the drivers at such short notice just before they're about to go and do their major event. You see athletics, you see football. Those guys never get a microphone stuck underneath their chin at such a late stage, and I'm always impressed with the way the drivers handle it.
Final fly past. The jumbo will swoop low over Albert Park to finally signal that the next big noise you hear will be that of the mass ranks of the Grand Prix grid. And your final thoughts, Mark, as to what's going to happen over the first few laps on this very tough racing circuit, isn't it? And that's something that Lewis is going to discover over the next hour or so.
Yeah, it is a tough circuit, Steve. It's tough on the cars in terms of brakes as well, but at the end of all of this, I think we're going to see a great Grand Prix. They're going to go into pecking order. They're going to want to finish. This is the first Grand Prix. Points are important. They're going to add up at the end of this season. But new boy Lewis Hamilton, Anthony Davidson for the Brits as well, they want to impress.
Kimi Raikkonen and Fernando Alonso individually, they'll also be wanting to make big statements on behalf of their new teams. It's a close season that's been so strong on anticipation and speculation. All that is over, and the pre-start spectacle is over as well, as the jumbo disappears over the Melbourne skyline. And now the action will be with us, and we're about to see Formula One with a whole new competitive edge. No Michael Schumacher, but Raikkonen and Alonso on the front row for the Australian Grand Prix. The start is just a few minutes away.